Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tom Dine, and I had the privilege of living in Prague for 8.5 years as president of Radio Free Europe, and now have the privilege of serving as a director of the American Friends of the Czech Republic and tonight's chairperson. So I welcome all of you to this gala dinner on behalf of the American Friends of the Czech Republic. We assemble this very special evening to celebrate, indeed honor, with the Civil Society Vision Award, two fellow Americans, Captain Eugene Cernan and Captain James Lovell, who possess Czech heritage and who have contributed greatly to the strengthening of American society. We also celebrate this evening very distinguished guests who are among us. Former President George Bush. First Lady Barbara Bush. Former Secretary of State Madeleine Albright. Former Secretary of Commerce Robert Mosbacher. U.S. Representatives Ted Poe and John Culberson of this particular area. Czech Ambassador to the United States, Peter Kolosh. And Houston's Mayor, Bill White. Allow me to personally thank our event committee, and we've worked intimately together for the last many months, and to our honorary committee for their participation in making tonight such a wonderful evening, and because we have a full house, a successful evening. The mission of the American Friends of the Czech Republic is to strengthen ties between the United States and the Czech Republic, enhancing understanding, friendship, and respect between the peoples of our two countries. And that is our purpose tonight. Proceeds from tonight's event will go toward commemorating former President Woodrow Wilson, who was instrumental in creating an independent, unified, and democratic Czechoslovakia after the end of World War I. In cooperation with the city of Prague, the American Friends of the Czech Republic is undertaking a project to reconstruct the Woodrow Wilson Monument that was destroyed by Hitler's Nazi army early in its occupation, which was followed by the communists who attempted to clear Wilson from Czech and Slovak consciousness. The reconstruction of the monument will honor Wilson's memory, his legacy, and the key role the United States has and will play in the history of the Czech Republic. We are delighted to be holding this annual event in Houston. All of us not from this great American city watched closely as Mayor White and his fellow Houstonians deftly navigated through Ike's destructiveness in August and thereafter. Thank you, Mayor, for your leadership and for being with us this evening. And I ask you now to come to the podium to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. President, Mrs. Bush, Secretary Mossbacher, Secretary Albright, Congressman Culberson. It's great to be here and welcome the visitors from Houston and this great organization to our city, the fourth largest city, our hometown. You are right in recognizing, my old friend, the Bushes and the Bush family first. Hey, and what happened during this big hurricane. Now, just ask any of your friends from Houston what it was like going through about the second largest natural disaster by property damage in U.S. history. We look pretty good for a town that's picked up in a few weeks, don't we? I mean, but one of the greatest calls I got was the week following the disaster from our former President Bush, who called me and he said, "Well, Mr. Mayor, I just got through talking with Bubba." Now, you know who that is? Former President Clinton. And he says, "I just got through talking to Bubba, and Bubba and I want to know whether we could raise some money to help the people in the Gulf Coast area." I want to tell you that it's a real tribute to those of us who do public service to be with people for whom the word public service does not depend on having a title, but is part of who they are. And so now, as I look through this room, I just got a note for those who are Houstonians, and then I look to the roster and the bios, Tom, of the people who are active in this organization, that I really got to call one of these journalists to come cover this, because I think there may be such a thing as a giant check conspiracy. For some reason, so much of the talent of this community I see represented at the tables here, and I had no idea of their ethnicity other than to say the Czechs are doing pretty good here in Houston, Texas, if I see some of the people. Or maybe it's just a tablecloth that causes that, but I want to. We're proud of our Czech Americans, and I think we know why. Shortly before taking this job, the Council on Foreign Relations had asked me and a few people to come by, and we went to several places, including Kosovo and Bosnia, but we did go by, Madam Secretary, Prague, and met with senior leadership, including the cabinet, on the issue of NATO accession. Some of us may have been perceived to be opinion leaders in the U.S., and I did. Congressman Culberson write a piece, little did I know, maybe running for mayor, about why it was important to this country to recognize those allies. During the course of that conversation, I did ask the Prime Minister, we were talking about a number of things, and one question that was asked at that table was, how were those people who were part of a former authoritarian regime treated once the forces of freedom prevailed, as history teaches they inevitably do, although it takes a while. And he says, "Hey, look, we are intelligent and hard-headed. There weren't any real communists. We just pretended." And he says, and so I want to say, he says, "You'll note that there's clever, hard-headed people, and they were never going to convert us, and we got together pretty well. We appreciate all the support that the Czech Republic has given those Americans in this crowd, and we have the ambassador, and I want to say we appreciate the support of the Czech Republic for the administrations of the United States of America, deep from our heart, whether we're from Czech background or not, and we deeply appreciate the Friends of the Czech Republic for having your meeting here in Houston, Texas. Thank you very much."
Thank you so much, Bill, for those kind words. Now we're going to present the Civil Society Vision Award. We're so pleased Jean and Jim have agreed to accept this award. We have a video highlighting some of the incredible accomplishments. So if we could play the video, and then we'll proceed.
They came to America sharing a dream. These Czech immigrants took what little they had on a journey to a new life in America. But they never forgot where they came from. And their love of that beautiful homeland was a gift they gave to the generations that followed.
My allegiance is to America. My love is for my heritage. My love is as deep for the people of the Czech, Slovak republics as it is for the people of America.
Because of the daring and sacrifice of those early immigrant families, there are an estimated 1.4 million Americans today with Czech heritage. And among that group are two men who followed the example of their Czech grandparents and took their own amazing journeys. Captain Jim Lovell was already a spaceflight veteran when he was named Command Module Pilot of Apollo 8. It was 1968, and we were reaching ever closer to the moon. Lovell's mission was extraordinary: to pilot the first ever orbit of the moon.
Well, I think as pioneers, we're leading something new that would be beneficial to the people of the earth.
As a symbol of democracy in action, the entire Apollo program would have a tremendous impact. And Jim Lovell discovered that he wasn't just reaching for the moon, he was also reaching across from America to his grandparents' homeland.
When I was in flight, in space at Apollo 8, orbiting the moon, there was an article in the Czech paper that said, "Czech blood is in space." So there was a tie there to the old country that is still there many, many years later.
It was Lovell's great dream to walk on the moon, a dream that was in reach when Apollo 13 lifted off in April of 1970. But this journey would not reach its destination.
Okay, Houston, we've had a problem here.
This is Houston. Say again, please.
Houston, we've had a problem.
Across the world, people watched and worried and wondered. Jim Lovell and his crew were fighting for their lives in a supreme test of character and courage.
And it was really a monument to the dedication of good leadership and teamwork, an initiative of the mission control team working with the flight crew that turned an almost certain catastrophe into a successful recovery.
The crew of Apollo 13 made a miraculous safe return. And Jim Lovell was a hero for Americans and for Czechs and for all citizens of the world.
Theirs is the spirit that built America.
There were few astronauts more experienced than Captain Gene Cernan when he led the crew of Apollo 17 in December 1972. It was a flight to the moon and into history. For Gene Cernan would be, to this date, the last man to walk on the moon. He carried with him on that mission a Czech flag and the knowledge that his relatives in that communist-controlled country were secretly sending their best wishes.
They were putting a bottle of wine under their mattress, hiding a bottle of wine under their mattress until their astronaut, Gene Cernan, their Czech American astronaut went into space, and they'd break the bottle open and they'd celebrate.
Gene Cernan walked across the lunar soil, every step a reminder of the journey his grandparents once made on behalf of future generations.
Whatever it is that I absorbed through my Czech background and heritage, I guess I was fortunate enough to make good use of it. And it's that heritage that I believe that has given me whatever it takes to accomplish what I've accomplished.
The Apollo program was a bright light, one of the many beacons of democracy that finally crowded out the long shadow of communism. Freedom rings in the Czech Republic. Czechs and Czech Americans reach across an ocean to pull their countries together in friendship. And there are two Americans with Czech roots that we honor tonight, who believe that recreating the Woodrow Wilson Monument would be an inspirational symbol of the historic ties that bind our countries, like the memorial to Tomáš Masaryk in Washington.
I think that this will be a further bond between our two peoples, continuing to work together to help each other and to help other people, especially in Europe.
We're separate countries, but we're one people. We're held together by that common bond of our background. That's what the American Friends of the Czech Republic is really all about.
And now to present the awards is the Honorable Fred Malik. Fred is chairman of the American Friends of the Czech Republic. He's founder and chairman of the Thayer Capital Partners and was the director of the 1990 Economic Summit of Industrialized Nations hosted by President Bush right here in Houston. Fred.
Wow, what a wonderful turnout. Thank you all for being with us. Thank you all very, very much. It's a thrill to see so many good friends here. Now, tonight, I know all of you haven't had the good fortune and privilege of being of Czech heritage. But tonight, as the mayor implied, as my friend Chase Untermeyer said earlier, just as on St. Patrick's Day, all are Irish. Tonight, we declare you all Czechs. And what an honor and a thrill it is to come back here to Houston and having the 41st President of the United States, George H.W. Bush, as our honorary chairman. Thank you so much, Mr. President, for being with us. We really, really appreciate it. You are such a role model for all of us. Your model of heroism is so fitting that you serve as an honorary chairman to honor two other heroes of America, two people who have sacrificed much, who have trained so hard, even risked their lives in the service of our country. I mean, what inspirations they have been to all of us. Who would ever forget some of those images of their wonderful, wonderful pioneering launches into space? Now, the Civil Society Vision Award is presented to people who have served the world community through their efforts to foster civil, legal, and democratic societies. Who knows who the first honoree was? The first honoree in 1995, presented by President Václav Havel, was our former Secretary of State, Madeleine Albright. And it's a pleasure to have so many of you who are board members, who are involved with the American Friends of the Czech Republic, and those of you who came to support this noble mission of building a great relationship between these two countries. And there are really very few people who have done so much to foster this relationship and to honor the relationship between these two countries as our 41st President of the United States. He was pivotal in the fall of communism. He was the man who in 1990 made the famous speech in Wenceslas Square in Prague, the words of which are memorialized in the Maastricht Memorial in Washington, D.C. He is the person who most Americans hold responsible and give credit for the fall of communism. He is the man who made possible the modern democracy, the vibrant modern democracy, which is the Czech Republic. It is just a great honor to have you with us. I have known you since you first became Republican National Committee Chairman some 30 years ago. And it has been an honor which you have served so well and so inspirationally for all of these years. Thank you for being with us, and I now have the privilege of welcoming to the stage our 41st President, President George Bush. Now, you've seen the videos of our awardees. Let me not add to the many accolades that they have received, but I would like to first welcome to the stage our first honoree, somebody who has been an inspiration to so many Americans for so many years, Captain Gene Cernan. Gene, would you come up?
You know, I'm certainly not speaking for Jim, but we've been a lot of places in the last 40 years. A lot of people tell us how wonderful we are and what great things we've done, and the fact of life is all we've been is the tip of the arrow. It was the American spirit, an American commitment, an American belief in doing what most people thought 40 years ago was impossible that allowed us to be here tonight. But to be given an award by the President of the United States of America in the presence of my favorite First Lady, Barbara Bush, it is truly one of the most, honestly, one of the most special moments in my life. I could talk a lot about, I am Czech and Slovak, so I don't have any impurities, by the way. Jim's got a couple he's got to talk about. But I have been back, I am what I am because what my grandparents and what my great-grandparents believe they could be. I am the result of the dream that they have had. I look back and I have no other way to explain to you why I, who came quite frankly from a very simple family, whose grandparents immigrated to this country at the turn of the century, had an opportunity to call the moon my home. And just let me add that last June, I had the opportunity to take my 16-year-old granddaughter back to Prague. We were guests of the Prime Minister. We stayed in the Liechtenstein Palace, and she tells everybody I stayed where the Queen stayed. But let me tell you, that young lady got a lesson in history that I think she will never forget. Prior to that visit, she didn't know what the Velvet Revolution was about. But the people we were with during the Velvet Revolution were 16 years old, as she is today, and explained to her what the significance and the importance of freedom is all about. God bless you. I cannot thank you, Mr. Mayor, John, and ambassadors going and coming from all different directions. I love you all. You cannot know what a special evening this is. Mr. President, God bless. Thank you.
Now, our next honoree, when you hear the name Lovell, it doesn't sound exactly Czech. You know, Malik, that sounds Czech. Cernan, that kind of sounds Czech. Lovell doesn't sound Czech. However, his mother is very much Czech, and she grew up in the adjacent town to where 3 of the members of the American Friends of the Czech Republic Board emanated from, including myself, Berwyn, Illinois. Jim now is back to his roots. Not exactly. He lives in Lake Forest, which is a pretty Tony place. But Jim is another special person who we of Czech heritage have only known about and talked about and just had the greatest admiration for so many years. And it's a great, great pleasure to have you with us tonight, Jim, and to honor you with this award.
You know, it's quite an honor for me to be here. My heritage goes way back, of course, on my mother's side to many years, and learning all about the relatives back in Czechoslovakia at the time. And I'll have to tell you an interesting story. Just after Apollo 11, I was on a trip to Italy, and my plans had been to go to see my relatives, they're still living, in Prague. I had planned to go, and while I was in Italy, I got a notice from the State Department that said, look it, if you want to go to Prague, Czechoslovakia, at that time, you'll have to stay at the ambassador's residence. We will not let you outside of the residence. And I just found out that, of course, I was going to go there in 1968, in August of 68, and I think or August of 69, and I think in August of 68 was the invasion by the Soviets. And so I didn't go that time. Years later, my wife and I did go. We saw our relatives there, and we sat down to these long talks about what it was like under the Soviet occupation, where they had to learn to speak Russian, and all the things that they did. And they seemed to be so happy, the fact that they were finally free. And you know, I noticed that in my flight, the first flight, 1968, if you recall that first time around the moon, I looked back, and the most impressive thing that I had was not the moon itself, but it was the Earth as it was coming up. And I realized at that time, seeing my home and seeing the fact that I could put the Earth behind my thumb, and everything that I'd ever known, my loved ones, my country, the world, was behind my thumb. And 68 was not a very good year in this country, as we all know, and I'm so happy to be part of that little, flight that gave us an upbeat by the end of the year. I realized at that time how important it was to live and work together, because for the first time I saw that the whole world was small, that if we didn't learn to live and work together with limited resources, we would not live much longer. And so with that thought, it came back to me a whole new feeling of what it meant to be an American, and why it's so important that we should learn from other countries and work together. And that's why I think it's so important that the Friends American Friends of the Czech Republic work together with the American Friends over here, and we work together to make a strong, universal group and not just separate countries. And thank you again.
I'm thrilled to be here with so many other outstanding people. I'm pleased to see Madeleine Albright, the former Secretary of State, my own Congressman, John Culberson, of course, our mayor, man for all seasons, Bill White, who served us with such distinction, and so many others as well. I am pleased to see Tom Dine, Ambassador Cabanis, who was former ambassador in the Czech Republic, a close friend of ours, lived across the bay from us when we do get to Maine in the summer. And so I'm, in essence, very pleased to be here. I should confess, though, I'm playing the old age card. I'm not staying for dinner. And the reason for that is twofold. One, old age, and you got to get home, get to bed. And two, the chefs have a way of slipping broccoli in on these dinners, and I want the hell out of here. Before that somnolent wave of old age works over me, let me salute each of you with the American Friends of the Czech Republic, ably led by Fred, along with Peter Rafali, Bill Cabanis, my friend here, Bob Dubek, and for your tireless efforts, really, to foster the ties between the United States and the Czech Republic. This dinner is but another manifestation of those ties. The Czechs are everywhere. I went to I don't mean to be a blowhard, but I was the honorary captain of the U.S. Olympic team in China. And there at the Olympic Village, that bird cage or whatever it was, guy walks in. I said, Tom, are you a pole vaulter? Athlete, are you a pole vaulter? He said, no, I'm Czech, but how'd you know my name was Walter? And, many people forget the lessons of history, and it's during these periods of peace that we should redouble our efforts to strengthen our alliances, promote the common values that we share. We do have peace with the Czech Republic, and I hope it'll ever be that way. It's only when nations and peoples drift apart and dwell on the differences that separate us that we fail to overcome the obstacles to progress. And that can lead to alienation, tensions, and even conflict. And after the bloodiest century in history, we simply cannot let that happen again. You know, we politicians are all interested in crowds. I'll never forget speaking in Wenceslas Square with President Havel. 1 million people that day. I thought getting 50 was a big crowd when I was working politics in Texas, but there was 1 million people, all turned out for freedom, the love of freedom. It was absolutely astounding. I know Bob Dubek is going to be making a report later this evening about the Woodrow Wilson statue in Prague, which is a manifestation of these shared values we have, as well as celebration of the historical ties and enduring friendship between our peoples. I salute Bob for his leadership on the project, and as someone who recently had a modest statue of himself erected here in Houston, I will be particularly interested in knowing what measures Bob will be taking to keep the pigeons off of President Wilson's likeness. I'm sure there's a new method to do this. That said, I have one more piece of business to attend to, and that is to salute what Fred has just said in honoring these two great patriots, Jim Lovell and Gene Cernan, two wonderful people. Remember, I was a member of Congress, and I went charging down there to see if I could kind of be caught up in the wave of Lovell as he was off to some flight, and he captured the imagination, as did Gene, of the American people, and is still strong. There's still great respect for these men and what they've accomplished, and I'm proud to be their friend. This marks the 50th anniversary of NASA and the courageous leadership shown by these two guys, and indeed all associated with the space-based program, captured the imagination of the entire human race. And what these remarkable men did to push back the horizon of discovery, I love what Gene said up here, they showed that the heavens were indeed within man's grasp, but with that power also came a responsibility to help the human condition. And ours can be a cynical world at times, of course. And occasionally someone will ask, where all the heroes have gone? I don't ask that. When I look at the pioneers like Gene and Jim, when I look at leaders like Madeleine Albright and our brand new president, who I wish well, he's my president, and I wish him all the best, Barack Obama, I know this land will always yield men and women of character, men and women who strive to do great things, who strive to do good and noble deeds, not for themselves, but for others, and who do so in a way that lights the way forward for generations to come. So I'm honored to be here tonight. I don't often speak for Barbara. Many of you know her. You know why I don't often speak for her. But I know I do speak for her when I say I'm very proud to be here, proud to be sitting at a table with our son Neil, our old friend Bob Mossbacher, our Ambassador Untermeyer, and so many others, and the grossest too, I might add. And it's a pleasure very much. And now, exercising the old age of exemption, I'm out of here. Unless, Barbara, you want to say something? This may surprise you. She does not want to say anything. Thank you very much, and good night. I want Barbara to walk up so she can at least say, little hustle, Bar. Little hustle, just wave to the backbenchers. Huh? No, you don't have to say anything. Just get up here. Give them a wave. Say something if you want to.
Thank you, President Bush, for those wonderful, appropriate words. It's a great honor that you and Mrs. Bush have been with us tonight. And now, just before we get served, a few housekeeping comments. During dinner, we hope you will enjoy a slideshow of images from Prague and musical entertainment by Jackson Truitt and his band. Jackson will be performing tonight on a Petrov piano made in the Czech Republic. This magnificent piano was generously loaned to us, especially for this evening, by the Forshee Pianos Company. Now I'd like to ask Reverend Levinson if he would come forward. Reverend Levinson is from St. Martin's Episcopal Church to give tonight's invocation.
Good evening. You've had plenty of speeches, so I don't have to add to that. I'm fortunate to be the priest at the church where President and Mrs. Bush attend weekly, and when he walked in this evening, he looked at me and said, "Now, Levinson, you aren't Czech, are you?" So I am really grateful that Fred Malik has endued that citizenship on all of us tonight. And I just have to add my word of gratitude to our mayor, who has done such good work for our city in the last 6 to 8 weeks. It has been an incredible time, and I hope we're all grateful to Mayor White. I called him when he was under the gun just to say how much I appreciated his good work, and I hope all the citizens of Houston share that gratitude. How did a Levinson become an Episcopal priest is a sermon, and that's not what I'm here to offer you. But I'm here tonight as a guest, and certainly have profound respect for my friends, Ambassador Cabness and his wife Catherine. Known them for most of my life, and thank them for inviting us tonight. It was my pleasure to do the wedding for one of their daughters, and Bill came up to me a little while ago and said she has 3 children now. So as I said, I'm glad it took. And we're so delighted to have so many guests. Indeed, Captain Siernan and Captain Lovell, you are great. When people talk about you all over the place that you're great, you are great. And it's a great honor to be here with you tonight. So I hope you'll join with me in just a moment of prayer as we give thanks. I know that many of you began eating before the prayer. I could hear you. And but unfortunately, everyone at my table felt like they couldn't do that, so they're starving. And so if we could serve my table first, I would really appreciate that. I'm at St. Martin's Church, which is right down the street. Services at 8, 9, 11, and 6 on Sundays. Hope to see some of you there.
I want to thank some special guests who are here, to recognize them and their great work they've done over the years. Ambassador Ed Dirigian is here, former ambassador to Israel and Syria, and in charge of the Baker Institution. Ambassador Bill Cabanis is here, former ambassador of the United States to the Czech Republic. Twice Deputy Chief of Staff of the United States to the Czech Republic and to Poland, Ken Hillis, and now involved in our diplomatic work in Iraq. Ken. Another ambassador is Chase Untermeyer, who just came of the United States, who was ambassador to Qatar, and welcome back to the United States and welcome back to Houston. And just a throwaway line, and former director of the Voice of America, and I know that well. Ambassador Lasse Sim of Norway, who is now the Consul General of Norway here in Houston. So all the Praguers are here and others. I would like to ask Secretary of State Albright to come forward and to ask her to give us a toast. And she, as recognized earlier by President Bush, is the past recipient of the American Friends of the Czech Republic Civil Society Vision Award, and very proud of her Czech heritage, my friend Madeleine Albright.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you all. I'm standing on a box, which is what... Every so often I'm given an assignment that feels like Christmas in June, and it is really wonderful to have a chance to be with all of you and to offer a toast in honor of 2 leaders and nations that are inseparable in my mind. I'm really delighted to be back in Houston. When I became Secretary of State, it was my first foreign trip. Of course, when I think of Houston, we think immediately of the exploration of space, which means astronauts, and I join with everybody in paying tribute to Captain Siernan and Captain Lovell. Really fantastic. So very, very proud. And Houston also does mean the incomparable Barbara Bush and President George Herbert Walker Bush, who really, I believe, whose sound judgment and clear vision helped move Czechoslovakia and the world from one era to the next. And finally, Houston means great hospitality, and I thank Mayor White for allowing us all to be here and to feel so very welcome. I'm very grateful to Tom Dine. I have known Tom. We actually were staff members for Ed Muskie a long, long time, in the 70s. We gave away the Panama Canal together. Right. We have been very good friends for a long time. And Fred, Malik, who is fabulous and has become such a close personal friend, and just so pleased that he has done all this work on behalf of our common heritage. And I want to thank everyone associated with the American Friends of the Czech Republic, and I'm very pleased that my good friend Ambassador Kolář is here, so thank you very much. Although friendship itself is intangible, it can be expressed in concrete ways, and tonight we are called on to support just such an expression, the rebuilding of a historic monument honoring Woodrow Wilson in Prague. In embracing this project, we recognize it as a parallel to the monument in Washington featuring Tomáš Masaryk, and I must say every time I drive by it, I get a special sense of pride. And this is fitting because the names of Wilson and Masaryk will always be linked in history and in our hearts. The strength of their convictions changed the world forever. In an era when other leaders saw a global chessboard with the imperial powers as players and everyone else as pawns, Wilson put forward an astonishing idea. He believed that laws should apply equally to big nations and to small, and that every country had a duty to defend this very important principle. As for Masaryk, he was not satisfied with an independent Czechoslovakia. He wanted to build a nation that, like the United States, would inspire people everywhere who believed in justice and loved freedom. Together, these two leaders proved that the sons and daughters of George Washington could make common cause with the descendants of Jan Hus. Tonight, we vow that their legacy shall live on through our friendship and in the 21st century. And we know that before the original statue in Prague was destroyed by the Nazis, it was inscribed with Woodrow Wilson's signature phrase, "We must make the world safe for democracy." In years to come, our job will be to support democracy in order to make the world safe. In recognizing this, we understand that no system of government can guarantee global prosperity or peace, and democracy is not a pathway to paradise where bad ideas are vanquished and everyone agrees with us, but it does provide the best chance that leaders will be held accountable, human rights respected, and mistakes corrected in time. Both Americans and Czechs have learned that freedom will always have enemies, whether Nazis or communists or dictators or apostles of holy war. As the decades pass, the labels and battlegrounds change. We must never change in our determination to stand together, to defend liberty and seek truth, and to persevere in our effort to build a better and freer life in our own countries and for all people. I have to say, for me, this is a very special time. Yesterday, November 11th, was the 60th anniversary of my coming to the United States. And it is something, and thanks to the generosity of the American people, I got to grow up a free American. And I have to say that when I was in Prague with President Clinton and we were standing in the courtyard of Hradčany, and they sang the American and Czech national anthem, it always brings tears to my eyes because the Czech national anthem is "Where is my home?" and the Star-Spangled Banner is "The land of the free and the home of the brave." And these two countries belong together. I also have to say that I am so proud to be an American of Czech heritage because we are about to inaugurate the 44th President of the United States of America, and we are turning over power peacefully. No other country in the world can claim that. So I'm very, very proud of our country, and tonight I ask you to join with me in raising a toast to the memory and legacy of Woodrow Wilson and Tomáš Masaryk, and to the enduring friendship between the people of the Czech Republic and the United States of America.
Thank you so much, Madeline. That was great. Our other honorary co-chair, along with President Bush, is the President of the Czech Republic, Václav Klaus. He's sorry he cannot be here, but he did prepare a video greeting that I would like to show you all now.
Dear Chairman Malek, dear President Raffaele, dear American friends of the Czech Republic, ladies and gentlemen, I'm sorry I cannot be in Houston with you tonight, but I would like to use this opportunity to say at least a few words in this indirect way. Your today's gathering is devoted to a very meaningful cause, renewing the Woodrow Wilson Monument in Prague that was destroyed by the Nazis in 1941. In the year I was born, and I was born a few hundred meters from its original location. It is my pleasure to support this project as a member of your honorary committee. The American Friends of the Czech Republic have launched many important activities, both in the Czech Republic and in the US, that further extend the strong historic bonds which exist between our two nations and countries. The establishment of the Masaryk Memorial in Washington, D.C., and your generous assistance after the 2002 floods in the Czech Republic, to name just two recent examples, were both most appreciated. A restoration of a monument in honor of Woodrow Wilson in Prague is another initiative that I very much support. Every child in today's Prague knows the Wilson railway station and is aware of the close connection and friendship between President Wilson and his Czech counterpart, our first president, Thomas Garrick Masaryk. He was inspired by American democracy to such an extent that he insisted that Czechoslovakia had to be formed upon the same democratic ideas and principles. When finally, in October 1918, Czechoslovakia emerged as one of the successor states of the Austro-Hungarian Empire, it happened to a great extent thanks to the considerable assistance of President Wilson, who, as President of the United States, officially supported the idea of an independent and democratic Czechoslovakia at the Paris Peace Conference in 1918-1919. The newborn republic that came into being thanks to the joint efforts of Presidents Woodrow Wilson and Thomas Garrick Masaryk celebrated recently the 19th anniversary of its existence. We are privileged to be living in a free, democratic country and should not take it for granted. From time to time, we should remind ourselves of those who had made it possible and make sure that the values and principles they stood for are being respected and protected. This is why it is most appropriate to reinstall the Woodrow Wilson Monument in Prague in the place where it belongs. In a joint effort with the Prague City Hall, you can, I believe, achieve it. I would like to conclude by thanking every one of you for your commitment and for everything you have been doing for my country. Thank you.
As a follow-up to that, I would like to invite the Ambassador of the Czech Republic to the United States, Peter Kolář, to come up and say a few words.
Thank you, Tom. Dear friends, first of all, Madam Secretary, President Raffaele, other distinguished members of the board of the American Friends, congressmen, and those who were here and who left already, as the president and his wife and mayor. It's a privilege and real honor to be here tonight, and I'm so thrilled to see so many familiar faces, so many new friends, so many people who are really working hard for our partnership, for our friendship, and to be tonight with you and to thank you all for your constant and enduring support. First, I should thank, of course, the organizers of this lovely gathering, which is so encouraging, which is so full of energy and so charging of my batteries and the batteries of all of you, I'm sure. It's a great feeling to see so many people who are here tonight and who are really so dedicated to support partnership between my country and this great country, the United States of America. Many of you had a chance, and I would say, from my point of view, even privileged to serve to our two countries. We have Bill Cabanis here, the ambassador, former ambassador to the Czech Republic, and his wife, Catherine. We have Jack Stagg, who used to be one of the most popular bankers in the Czech Republic, and I still remember his song when he was leaving the Czech Republic, and still people like it, you know. So this is something what is just giving me the very personal feeling that we are tonight with many friends who really know what the partnership means and what our friendship is about. And it's a great honor to be here with you tonight and to have a chance to express a warm and heartfelt thank you to the American friends of the Czech Republic and to all of you for so generously supporting Czech-American relations. It is by no coincidence that we are having this wonderful event here in Texas, in a place where it is estimated that up to 1 million Americans of Czechoslovak descent live, a place where the largest number of Czech outside of the Czech Republic found their home. Madam Albright, you said it was your first foreign trip when you became the Secretary of State. When I became the ambassador, me and my wife, we had the first trip out of the Washington to this lovely state of the United States. And we still remember that. And we are so full of lovely memories. Our common heritage is manifest in many of you, including Eugene Cernan and James Lovell, two great US astronauts of Czechoslovak descent, whom we honor tonight. They are a great symbol of the Czech-American connection in the course of exploration of space, just as when, during the Apollo 11 mission, Antonín Dvořák's New World Symphony was brought to the moon. But of course, I appreciate all of you who are friends of the Czech Republic, with or without Czech background. We are truly a family, and this gala is a tribute to the Czech-US friendship and the tribute to all of you. Tonight we also celebrate President Woodrow Wilson and his important role in the founding of the first Czechoslovak Republic and in enhancing the strong connections we still enjoy. The founding father of Czechoslovakia, President Tomáš Garrigue Masaryk, shared the same vision of the world with President Wilson, one in which freedom and democracy could thrive. In short, Czechs and Slovaks would not have won their independence in 1918 without the help and support of the United States. Likewise, we would not have regained our freedom in 1989 without you. It was President Reagan who hastened the end of the Cold War, and metaphorically speaking and paraphrasing his own words, tore down the Berlin as well as any other wall behind which we were separated from the rest of the free world. And again, it was your 41st president, President Bush, with his lovely wife Barbara, who we hear may have some Czech roots, who visited our newly established democratic states after the Velvet Revolution with a clear message that the United States is with us again. And it was Madeleine Albright, a great American with Czech descent, working with President Clinton, whose leadership led to ours joining the North Atlantic Treaty Alliance, cementing our democracy and security. Thank you, Madam Secretary. You know why we call you our Madeleine, naše Madlenka. The only disappointment you cause us anytime is that you don't want to run for the Czech president. Another courageous leadership, that of current President George W. Bush, will result in the fall of the last relic of the Cold War. Visas for the Czech tourists traveling to the United States will be abolished. Without the leadership of the President Bush, it would not happen. And it will happen in only 4 days from tonight, symbolically on the anniversary of the Velvet Revolution. This last brick of the Berlin Wall is going to be removed. Along the way, the American friends of the Czech Republic helped us tremendously. Thank you very much for your help. Dear friends, this year, 2008, we remind ourselves of the fateful significance of years ending with the number 8 throughout our recent history. I don't want to remind you all of those number 8s, but they were not always nice. I just could remind 1938, the Munich appeasement, this terrible betrayal of our allies. Then 48, the communist coup d'etat. 68, the invasion led by Soviet tanks to our country. And we could continue, but I'm just saying that without the United States, we would not be able to speak tonight together. And we have learned a lesson from that. My country has always been better off with the United States on our side. We also learned that true friendship is between people, between human beings, and it's based on mutual respect, understanding, and like feelings. Politics and relations between governments and states is important, but people-to-people contacts are real fundamentals of friendship. As President Woodrow Wilson once said, friendship is the only cement that will ever hold the world together. Tonight, we also celebrate the hopeful return of the Woodrow Wilson Monument to Prague. With the help of the American friends of the Czech Republic and all of you here tonight, the Wilson Monument, which once stood in Prague as symbol of our democratic principles and closeness of our friendship, will stand there again in 2009. We hope so. In time to celebrate the 20th anniversary of the Velvet Revolution. Isn't it symbolic? Ladies and gentlemen, with freedom and democracy restored in the Czech Republic, our domestic and international policies are once again deeply rooted in the alliance with the United States. We share the same values and principles. We are a reliable partner to the United States. We are a strong international ally and promoter of freedom and democracy. We share those values with all peace-loving nations and stand ready to defend those values against evil all around the world. This sounds like a fairy tale, but it's a real success story, and you are a part of that story. It is your success too. It is a success of our friendship honored by this gala. And let me conclude by a few personal remarks. It's not only about the history, it's not only about the past, it's about the future. We are ready and we are looking forward to partnershiping and cooperating with the new administration of the United States. I, as the ambassador of the Czech Republic, am looking forward to cooperate with the new administration, and I'm also so privileged and honored to be the ambassador in time where this country is challenged by so many, your country is challenged by so many difficult goals and tasks. But I'm also so much thrilled to see how this transition of power is going smoothly. We Europeans, we should learn from you. It's something so fascinating to see two people who were fighting against each other in the campaign, quite tough way of campaigning, who could congratulate each other. And when I saw the speech of presidential candidate John McCain, I was so touched, I was so moved when he said, well, we fellow Americans, we should not only congratulate President-elect, we should help him to accomplish his mission. And he used to be my opponent, and he will be my president, and we need to help him. That was something what I would love to have in our country, I would love to have in Europe, and we should learn from you. And that's why I'm so proud of you, friends of the Czech Republic. And I believe that you, with your personal message, with your personal example, would come to my country, and you would be as a source of energy and source of the political culture we should learn from you. So thank you very much for this evening. Thank you for everything what are you doing. Thank you for your sustained support of my country and our partnership. Thank you.
Peter, thank you so much for your elegant words and for your effectiveness in Washington. And now my fellow American friends of the Czech Republic director, Robert Dubek, who is the project manager, if you will, leading the effort to reconstruct the Woodrow Wilson Monument in Prague, is here to tell you a bit more about how tonight's event is supporting that project. Bob?
Thank you very much, Tom. Ladies and gentlemen, before we break up this evening, I have the privilege of telling you about the Woodrow Wilson Monument, the main fundraising objective of this event. The original monument was dedicated on July 4th, 1928, by Czechoslovak President Tomáš Masaryk and President Wilson's widow. The day was declared a national holiday in Czechoslovakia, and thousands came to the ceremony. The monument stood facing Prague's main train station, which had been renamed in Wilson's honor in 1919. The project was initiated, directed, and funded by Americans of Czech descent. To create the statue of Wilson, they chose Albin Polashek, who was born in Frenstadt, Moravia, and came to America in 1901. He studied at the Pennsylvania Academy of Fine Arts in Philadelphia and headed the Art Institute in Chicago from 1920 to 1950. Now, as a side note, a good percentage of Texans of Czech descent, many of you here this evening, can trace their roots to the region where Polashek was born. In fact, the Town Museum in Frenstadt, Moravia, has a special exhibit about Czech settlements in Texas, including one called Frenstadt. In December 1941, the Wilson Monument was destroyed by the Germans and the statue was melted down. During the brief period of freedom after World War II, a plaque was installed to commemorate the monument and to express faith that it would be rebuilt by Americans of Czech descent. But this too was destroyed after the communist takeover in February 1948. In 2002, AFOCR established a memorial in Washington in honor of President Masaryk, who was the father of Czech independence and democracy. This, in turn, led to our inspiration in 2006 to rebuild the monument in Prague to Woodrow Wilson, who was indeed the godfather of Czech independence. Czech ambassador, who is with us tonight and just spoken, Petr Kolář, endorsed the idea to Pavel Ben, the Lord Mayor of Prague, who enthusiastically agreed. By happy coincidence, the city of Prague is completely renovating the main train station and the surrounding area. The Prague City Council approved the project formally in August of 2007 and designated AFOCR to work with the city to get it built. This year, we formed a team of professionals in Prague to carry it out. Now, one irony of the project is that the original plaster model of the entire statue was preserved until 1977, when it was destroyed except for one part. The head was found last January in a warehouse of the Czech National Museum. And this means that the most expressive part of the sculpture will be an exact copy of the original, and the reproduction will be tied to the hand of the original sculptor, Albin Polashek. Now, just 6 weeks ago, we evaluated 13 competing proposals from Czech sculptors to recreate the bulk of the statue. As a result, we commissioned 3 of them to produce 1/3 size scale models for final selection, which will be in February. We are looking forward to dedication. We hope to see you all there, and we thank you for sharing in this vision.
Thank you for all that information, Bob. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes our program. I want to thank everyone for being here and supporting the restoration of the Woodrow Wilson Monument. We appreciate your generosity. Have a good rest of the evening. Dobry večer.